All right. Good morning. Welcome back here to Trader Money. Great to have you aboard. Let's go out and take a look at challenge sorting methods here. And before I do that, let me just verify audio here. We have had some audio issues. It looks like it's just going in and out without a lot of explanation here. So I do have it up in the background. So if you're hearing a little feedback, my apologies. I will mute that in a second. I am without my eyes and ears, Jason, here today, so my apologies there. But let's go out and take a look at challenge sorting methods and, kind of this element of we could have a bunch of triggers out there, a bunch of signals out there. Which one do we choose? Because when it comes to a challenge format, we can't choose them all, right? We can't. It doesn't make any sense to go, well, we have, the challenge is at 6,000 and we have 6 signals. Let's just go put 1,000 in each. It doesn't get us anywhere. It ups the commissions. It lowers some of the probabilities, and it dampens. It just dampens the whole idea of simplicity. Even worse, if the challenge is at 2,000 and we have 6 signals. We're going to go put 300 in each signal. I mean, we need to make 50% on our option just to cover the commission on some brokers, right? So it's one where it doesn't make a lot of sense to go get into every single signal. So how do we sort them out? How do we say, you know what? We're getting a signal on Apple, we're getting a signal on Nike, or we're getting a signal on Halliburton today. Which ones do we choose? We need 2. We have the money to run with 2, but which ones do we choose? That's the question. And how complex do we make it, right? Because the reality is if we make it too complex, what we end up doing is we end up getting in the way of the algorithm, right? Or we end up adding more layers to the algorithm, which we don't really want to do. Right? The algorithm is designed to give us the triggers, to give us the probability of trends, right? And it's designed to run the way it does. We don't want to go, well, you know what, just because we have a whole bunch, let's change the algorithm up a little bit. But we also don't want a human element in here because emotions come into play there, right? Well, who do I choose? Apple, Cat, Halliburton, they're all triggering. Which ones do I choose? Well, Apple's been more friendly to me in the past, or Hal's been more friendly to me in the past, right? Then there's nothing worse, where you have the choice between 2. You have the choice between Nike and FedEx, and you choose Nike, but FedEx moves your way and Nike doesn't, right? Kind of always feels like that when there's 2, right? It's just kind of amazing how that happens, but it's not the reality. And so we need something to kind of take out the human element, not impede the algorithm, but to make it very simple to choose. So let's go out and compare 3 stocks. And we're going to go out here this morning, and we're going to go out and compare. We're just going to theoretically say that Apple, right? That Apple, Nike, and sorry, my mouse drawing is terrible. Apple, Nike, and Halliburton theoretically are all triggering bullish signals. Okay. Now, they're not, but theoretically, let's just say that they are. Okay. How do we have room to make one trade. Which one do we choose? Apple, Nike, or Hal? We can only choose one. Well, let's start with sorting method 1. Let's use the 7s approach. This is a very simple sort. This is a sort where we come down and we take off everything except for a 7-day moving average. And we ask the question, is it above the 7-day moving average? Well, yes. All right. Gets 1 point. Easy enough, right? It's either above or below. Very easy to see. What about the weekly? Is it above or below? It's above. So it gets a 2nd point. What about the monthly? No, it's above. So it gets a score of 3. Perfect score. Looks like we're going with Nike, right? Well, let's go take a look at Apple on these same 3 time frames. You notice I don't care how much above it or below, how much above it is. But here's Apple. Is it above the 7-month? Yep. Check. What about the 7-week? Is it above the 7-week? Yep. Check. What about the daily? Is it above the 7-day? Yep, barely by a few cents, but we don't care how much, just care that it is. So they both get 3. Okay, so one sorting method isn't going to work, but let's go take how. Is it above the 7-day? Check. Right? It's above the 7-day. What about the 7-week? Yep, it's above the 7-week. What about the 7-month? Barely missing. Barely missing. It's what? 4 cents, or excuse me, it is above. My apologies. I read 31. Sorry about that. But it's above, right? So it's above the 7-month, 7-week, gets a score 3. Same score for all of them. This hasn't helped us, right? Sometimes this simple sort will give us a clear winner. We run with that and go. We don't move to the next step. But in this case, they're all the same. We have buy triggers on all 3, theoretically, and all 3 of them get 3 points on this sorting. All right, easy enough. Let's go to sorting method number 2. Sorting method number 2 is just the daily chart and 3 moving averages. And all of these moving averages are simple, right? They're all simple. And we're going to use a 50 and a 100 and a 200-day moving average. And what we're looking at is whether these are tied up or tied down. So basically, we're looking for the 50-day moving average to be greater than the 100-day moving average, which should be greater than the 200-day moving average. Is that what we have here with Halliburton? Well, let's just look at this stack over here. We don't even have to look at the chart, but here's the stack. 30-14 is the 50. But we can see the 100-day moving average is below that, and the 200-day moving average is above that. So the 50 is not greater than the 200. It's greater than the 100, but not greater than the 200. It's not tied up. Okay? It's not tied up. We're looking for tied up. So Halliburton does not get through this sort. What about Nike? Does it get through this sort? Yeah, the 50 is greater than the 100, which is greater than the 200. Nike gets through the sort. Nike is tied up. So Nike or Halliburton, we're going with Nike. What about Apple? Here's Apple. The 50 is greater than the 100, but the 200 is greater than both of them. So Apple's not tied up. So we're going with Nike. Pretty simple decision. Pretty simple sort. Is it tied up? Is it tied down? Now, or is it tied up, right? Now, for the bearish side, we want to see the opposite. We want to see them tied down. Now, we're only looking for full-on tied up or full-on tied down. You know, well, it takes one, it doesn't take the other, who cares? You know, Apple gets a no, Nike gets a yes. It's that simple. Now, if they all get no's, right? So if Nike didn't have this, we'd be kind of in that, we'd have to go to our third sorting method, right? But let's just assume, for the sake of demonstration here, let's just assume that Apple and Nike have both made it through these first 2 sorting methods. We've eliminated Halliburton, and with the 7s and the ties, we've eliminated Halliburton, and we're running with Nike and Apple. We only have room for one trade, so which one do we choose? Well, then we're going to go to step 3, liquidity. And we're going to favor the stock with the smallest option spreads. Now, by option spread, we're talking about the difference between the bid and the ask price, and we're looking for the option that has the smallest difference between the two on a percentage basis, not an absolute basis. Because, you know, if it's a $5 option and it's a 10-cent spread, that's different than a $1 option with a 10-cent spread. The percentages are very different. We're going to see this with Apple and Nike. Here's Apple. What's the percentage difference on this option? Well, we have a 10-cent spread on a $7 option. 10-cent spread on a $7 option. What is that? I mean, that's not much. What's that, 1.5%? It's a pretty small spread on a percentage basis. What about Nike? Well, here's Nike. $1.52 to $1.58. We have a 6-cent spread on a $1.50 option. That's about a 4% spread. So who are we going with? We're going with Apple. Why? Because Apple's spread is smaller on a percentage basis. Yes, I know Nike's spread is smaller on an absolute basis, but the option values are very different. So on a percentage basis, it's a lot cheaper to get in and out of Apple than it is to get in and out of Nike. So we're going to run with Apple, right? That's all the sorting is. That's all it is. It's very simple, and it's designed to be that way. When we talk about algorithms, sometimes it feels complex, but algorithm is just a recipe. It's just a process. And one thing we want with the sorting method is we don't want it to get away with the trigger method. To kind of take away from the triggering method for the algorithm. All this sorting method is designed for is just to make the decision-making process simple when it comes to choosing which stock to run with when there are too many. It doesn't say Apple's better than Nike. It doesn't say Nike is better than Halliburton. It doesn't say any of that. It says, hey, this is the one we're going to run with because you know what? The odds are slightly greater in our favor, or it's just frankly cheaper. And that's it. That's it when it comes down to it. So that's the sorting method that's being used here for the automated challenge. We'll be running with as we go forward. Now, tomorrow we're going to go take a look at the ATR method, and this is also pretty simple. But there's a few more decisions to be made in here. Meaning we could adjust a few things and have some dramatically different results. And so we'll go and talk about this. We'll go talk about this from an exit standpoint, using it from an exit standpoint for challenge trades. And I'll show you one of the changes that we'll likely make when we go live. I'll show you what it will do, how it will affect things, but really kind of take a close look at this exit method and mechanism. Like always, these training videos for these will be loaded into the spreadsheet so you can just access them immediately without having to go into the video library on Trader Minute. And so, you just come in and click the link just like you can here on this intro video or on any of the video recordings from a day-to-day basis that you'll find under this video recordings tab down below. Thanks for hopping on. Have yourselves a great one. We'll talk to you later. Take care.